back. Welcome to the episode that you did not know that you needed. I'm going to be going through the whole history, year by year, of my Forester for the last 7 years of my ownership. The reason for this is I've had quite a number of different modifications, different tyre and wheel setups, different lift combinations, and I wanted to run through and give anyone who's wanting to do a similar type of build or a similar type of modification to their third generation Forester some insight about what works and what doesn't. We're going to go through by each year, starting in 2018, phase 1. I purchased my Forester in June 2018, and I was the first owner in New Zealand imported from Japan. It's the SH5 XT, meaning it's got the 2-litre turbo EJ205, and it's paired with the 4-speed automatic gearbox. Being the JDM version, it also has the SI drive in the centre console, giving you sports sharp and intelligent modes, and it also has push-button start and heated leather seats. There's also 6 airbags for the extra safety. And the first modification I did on it was install a catback exhaust from X-Force. It's a 3-inch catback, and it's still on my car today. It has taken an absolute beating, and I've repaired a few little bits and pieces on it here and there over the years, but 7 years later, it's still going strong. I also bought over from my previous Forester the 17-inch Advanti wheels with the Bridgestone jewelers in 225 60x17. Pair that with a custom-made 4mm aluminium skid plate and some 25mm lift springs from Dobinson's, and we're away, we're good to go. The reason why I picked the auto, obviously we do get the manuals here in New Zealand, so we're very lucky, but I did pick the auto because the intent of this Forester was to off-road it, and the single range manual is just asking for burnt clutches. The last thing I did in 2018 is also took it in for a dyno tune. This gave us a little bit of extra power. It's not a powerhouse by any means, and it's also tuned for 95 octane rather than 98 or 100, as I just don't have access to consistent 98 or 100 where I live in the South Island of New Zealand. 2019, phase 2. This is the year where I decided I would like to start doing river crossings in the Forester. And the formula that I put together, and from the research and the conversations I had with people doing a similar kind of thing over in Australia, was fitting the Suzuki Grand Vitara 2006 Plus snorkel. Fitment wise, it's pretty good. It fits really well to the body of the SH Forester. I trimmed the top just to kind of bring the top headpiece of the snorkel down a bit lower to fit with the body, and then it goes only partway along the guard before entering into the guard, and then you use a 3-inch flexi hose on the inside of the guard and down into your airbox, meaning it looks just really tidy. The only downfall of the snorkel was it essentially extended the intake, and it did cause a restriction. As much as the cold air was great being outside of the car, it was a longer intake and needed to be remapped on the tune. John at Spec Performance up in Christchurch sorted this out for me, and we're back making power again. The other supporting things that you need to do for crossing water too is relocating your ECU and then extending your diff breathers and trans breather as well. You'll often find that the ECU is in a really low point on the passenger floor pan, and as soon as you flood the vehicle, you're going to cook it. So I actually flooded my vehicle 3 weeks after I moved my ECU up into the back of the glove box. All you do is unplug the back of the ECU, move it up, set it up on Velcro strips or bolt it in somehow, and then just plug it back in. You're good to go. Other parts of 2019 also featured 15x7 dynamic steelies. These were a 0 offset. They look really, really tough. Feedback on them, love the look of them. Really nice fitment. They do set a very aggressive offset on the car, which means that you will need to do some trimming and maybe a bit of hammering for your steering arc. because you will get rubbing. Even when I had the 215x75 15 hand-cooked mud terrains, they started rubbing straight away. The only other thing about the Dynamics and any steel wheels in general is they are heavy, and I will preach massively about keeping heavyweight stuff off Subis because they just perform so much better. That's coming from a daily and an off-roader as well. So I use my car pretty much to go to work. I use it to go to weddings, to elopements, to all sorts of photo shoots, but I also use it to get out, go camping and go exploring as well. That might not be the case if you have a weekend warrior Subi and then you've got a daily driver as well. We also took the Subi over the Nevis in 2019. You can see a video link here. And there was one section where we're actually floating across a water crossing. So all of those modifications held up really well. Phase 3, 2020, I've got a Subi Lift Oz 2-inch lift kit for the Forester. Absolutely recommend these. If you do want to get a decent amount of lift and you want to do it through a really well designed and really well built lift kit, Matt from Subi Lift Oz, he's an absolute legend and he'll put you in the right place. One thing to keep in mind with spacer lift kits here in New Zealand is every lift kit needs to be certified. All that means is you need to have extra money set aside for your certification. Your whole car gets checked over and then it gets signed off as a full item. So you'll get your wheels, your tyres, you can delete your rear sway bar and have that signed off. You can do a whole heap of things that are outside of the normal warranty fitness standards. But once you have it signed off, you can't change anything. 2020 also saw the introduction of the Toyo Open Country AT2s in 225 70x16, and I paired them with a set of Sparco and Enki, Sparco X Enki. I don't know, there was a collaboration that went on, and they were a 16-inch plus 45 alloy wheel, much lighter, and that drove much better. I'm going to be hitting this one. Phase 4, 2021. We've just got on the other side of COVID and things were starting to spice up a wee bit. If you've been following me on Instagram, you'll know that I'm a bit of a wheel whore. So I switched tyres and wheels out at any given opportunity when I see them on Marketplace. I have settled down recently because I have got my dream set of wheels and I've held on to them. But 2021 was a really interesting year. The first thing I found is I wanted to get bigger tyres. I wanted to go to a 235 75x15. I got a set of Tom's Racing 15x7 wheels off a Toyota with the centre bore drilled out for the 56.1mm centre bore for a Subaru. These did need wheel spacers, 25mm wheel spacers to bring the wheels out a little so they would clear my brakes. The XT brakes are a bit bigger in the front than the regular ones, so that's something to keep in mind if you're looking at different wheels. And then I paired that with a set of Maxxis ATs and eventually went to a set of Falken Wild Peak 83s in the same size, so 235, 75, 15. This gave us about 28.9 inch of wheel diameter, which for a Subi is reasonably big. It's up there. I instantly noticed a little bit more capability off-road. I noticed that I had more clearance and more sidewall to work with. The only downside about going to that size is you need to modify and trim and hammer part of your wheel wells to get them to fit pretty much. The fronts as well, they do rub on the front and they weren't going to fit with the factory washer reservoir in there. There's a universal kit that you can get. It's a 1.5 litre washer reservoir and you can choose a new spot for that to sit that's up and out of the way, and then you can move the ginormous reservoir that comes from factory. I think it's like 7 litres or something like that. You can take that out, and that will give you the clearance to fit those tyres nicely. I also ordered a set of Rallytech adjustable control arms. These were designed to be inverted, so flipped up the other way, the curve comes up and down like that to your rear wheel, giving you way more ground clearance. We got some lights for the front of the car, some Nava 175 LED spotlights, and they're still on my car right now. They are absolutely perfect. They're ADR compliant, so you can use them legally here in New Zealand on the road, and they have a decent amount of reach at night. To mount the spotlights, I also got a ADF light bracket sent kindly over from Donald at Offroading the West when he unfortunately crashed his old Forester. So that bracket lives on my car. Nearing the end of 2021, we did a cam belt change and we used a Gates cam belt kit, and the idler bearing a few weeks later failed, and the little cover came off and went through the timing belt and then skipped some teeth and bent some exhaust valves, pretty much blowing up my engine. With my Forester out of action in the driveway for a couple of months, either waiting an engine rebuild or a replacement engine to come in, I picked up a 2000 model SF Forester. It was a dual range manual, 2 litre, 2-inch lifted, had muddies, had all of the stuff done to it, and I ran that for a little while. I absolutely love that car and massively regret selling it afterwards. Phase 5. We got a new engine in the Forester. We picked up the new engine from a Subaru Exige. I'm not quite sure how to pronounce it, but they're the big 7-seater wagons that you can get from Subaru. They have exactly the same engine, the EJ205, and this one was healthy. This one doesn't burn any oil, and it had a nice amount of power to it, and it's still going strong in my car today. Huge thank you to my mate Tony from Healy Automotive for helping me with the fitment of the engine, sourcing it and making this all happen. Wouldn't have happened without him. We're back on the road, and then I pick up a couple of sponsorships that really make 2022 the year of turning this Forester into probably the most capable off-road. I think 2022 and 2023 were where it grew to kind of like a bit of a monster. Gained a lot of popularity, and I picked up a sponsorship from General Tyre NZ and also from Kiwi Camping. So I ended up getting the General Grabber X3s in 225/75/16. So that's the largest tyre I had on my car. And I also picked up the Kiwi Camping Softshell Compact rooftop tent and an awning. So I was out there creating content, shooting photos, shooting videos for these guys, and getting out there and doing it. It was a real fun year. We cut the bumper, get a bit of extra clearance at the front on the diagonals simply by chopping the fog lights out. It was a bit of a... haven't really seen it done like that before. I've seen some variations of it, but I just basically got out there with the angle grinder and some masking tape and made it happen. And it did make a big difference in terms of approaching obstacles from an angle. You could definitely get your tyre in there really well and get up over a lot of things that otherwise you'd just be fouling your bumper on the ground. With the new tyres, I also put on the Dynamic Steelies. I went back to Steelies because they just look tough. They've suited the X3s really well, and they were 16/7 with a +30 offset. So just in a little bit further than the 0 offset 15s from Dynamic. And after the years of beating on the 4mm aluminium skid plate, I picked up a steel skid plate from APHN Industries. And it was a 5mm steel, really well designed, very heavy, but very cool. Phase 6, 2023. This is kind of like where it got to the pinnacle of the off-road build, I would say. We ordered in, I saved up all my pennies and waited for a long time for a boat shipment to come into Littleton Harbour and then get shipped down to Wanaka. It was the Super Extreme off-road bull bar and also the Super Extreme rear tyre carrier. This was kind of like a pipeline dream for me over the last couple of years to have a bull bar on the car. And I also got the Winch cradle and a carbon Offroad 4,500 pound winch. So all of this was set up on the car. I was super excited, and it was a pretty decent sized build now. It was getting real fun. While I was getting out and about adventuring and making the most of this setup, the one thing that I did realize is maybe I've pushed it out too far. We're talking rear tire carrier, steel skid plate, steel wheels, big mud tires. We have the rooftop tent on there as well. We've also got a bull bar. We've also got a winch. All of that equates to a lot of weight. With all of this extra weight, I was finding the drivetrain was under a lot more stress. I was replacing parts a lot more. I had decreased acceleration. I had really bad fuel economy. All of the things you kind of sign up for when you're doing these modifications. But I realized that actually this isn't really where I wanted to be. And as much as I loved the build and how it was looking, it was either I need to buy a daily vehicle to complement this, or I need to scale back. An interesting story, like one of my tutors back in design school years ago, when you're designing, for a graphics or for an advert or for anything that really has a bit of a creative outcome, he had this combination of, like, you have a branch, okay? And the branch has all of these apples on here. And this is your mild apple, this is your medium apple, this is getting pretty crazy. And the apple that's way out here is called Mutant Insane. And I remember him saying you have to get to Mutant Insane before you can look back at the other apples and go, oh, this is where I want to be. Now, this was a really good analogy for me because I kind of got the car to where it was in 2023 and then realized it actually isn't perfectly cut out for what I want to use it for. I kind of wanted to build it into an off-road or into all of this crazy stuff. But in reality, I still was using it on road so much. So I planned to reduce some weight, and I came across the set of wheels that were going to help me do that. Ray's TE37s, 16 by 7 plus 46 offset, 5.4 kilos each. These were kind of like the Japanese icon wheel. We can get them secondhand here in New Zealand, and they usually go for around 1,500 to 2,500 or more. Like, they're pretty expensive wheels. I came across one set on Trade Me, which is our auction site here, and it had $1 reserve, and I picked them up for $200. They were a bit beaten up and a little bit curbed, but that didn't bother me because I'm going to be using them off-road anyway. Phase 7, 2024. This is just like last year now. This was my year of indecision, and you would have seen this if you're following me on Instagram. At the start of the year, I decided, hey, I'm going to try not off-roading my car anymore, and I'm going to try lowering my car. So this was a massive step in a really sideways action, and it was fun. I really enjoyed it. I don't regret it at all because it was such an experience. Driving the Forester on lowered springs, I had Tanabe lowered springs, I had 18 by 9.5 rotors and 245 45 18 tires. So it was like polar opposite of what it was doing the year before. I removed the snorkel, we put a new guard on, we did all of the stuff to kind of pull it back to factory. I took all of the rooftop gear off, I took all of the weight off, we put a new bumper on the front of it, I sold the bull bar, I sold a whole heap of my off-road stuff to pay for the lowering gear. I had it like this for a few months, and I love the cornering, I love the handling, the acceleration was great, and it was a pleasure to drive, but I did miss the adventure. So I decided to put the standard springs back in and just have it at standard height. I was at a bit of a crossroads of whether I needed to recertify the car again with the new modifications or whether I was going to return to standard. And ultimately, I just returned to standard because it's cheaper and it was easier for me to do at the time. I then fitted the rays for the first time, actually on the car. They weren't in the garage anymore, and I think I fell in love with the whole thing all over again. General Tyre then connected with me, and we got a set of all-terrains, the AT3, and the size of these were at 5% larger than stock. So in New Zealand, 5% is the limit that you can go before you need to go to certification. So the 5% size is 235/65 by 16. It's a bit of an oddball size, but is absolutely perfect for the SH Forester. Being the all-terrains, it also meant that they were a lighter tyre, they weren't as noisy, and they were more versatile on-road as well. Near the end of the year, we did a trip down to Flatnats. You can see the video here, and we lifted the Forester. So I've got an install video as well. You can see both of those. And we put the Subi Lift-Oz lift kit back into the Forester for a few months with the idea that, hey, I might just certify this as it is because I really like the setup. Ultimately, it just came down to cost. The cost of certification was not worth it for me. So I took the lift kit out again, sold it, and now it's back at standard height. Phase 8. Today, 2025. What is the Forester doing? We have a new rooftop tent on there from Kiwi Camping. The general grabbers are still on. The raised TE37s are still on. We've got a nice light bar up the top. I've done a few little modifications. I've got some rally mud flaps, weather shields. I've reinstalled those after taking the old purple cracked ones off 7 years ago. We got a custom fab skid plate again in 6mm aluminium, and it's designed to come out of the front of the car to give you a bit of bumper protection as well. It also looks really good. I was really happy with how it turned out. We don't have too many more mods coming. I have one video that I'm going to be doing very soon. It's on its way from Japan right now. So that's pretty exciting. It means it's not going to be standard height as such anymore, but you'll have to find out what that's going to be. Thanks so much for hanging out and watching and joining me with my journey of my Forester. Hopefully there's some insight in there for you, but essentially the only tips I've really got is keep weight off your car if you want to have it as a daily driver, and do the research. The type of vehicle that you're going to be building needs to be something that fits what you actually need to use it for as well. Stay tuned for the next episode. I'm really looking forward to connecting back with you all. We're going to be heading up to the 4x4 Expo in Christchurch on the 6th and 7th of September. So if you are around, come and find me at the Kiwi Camping stall. We're going to be hanging out. Come and say hi. Would love to meet you. We'll catch you later.